Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Liberal Comedy Show. I am your host, Kit Richards. So I guess you've noticed by now that the liberal media and the Democratic Party have merged into one and become the loyal opposition to President Trump. We don't have an independent media anymore in the United States. The people in the liberal media and the people in the Democratic Party are now indistinguishable. They talk the same way, they use the same words and phrases, they peddle the same talking points, they push the same agenda, they suffer from the same mental disorder, and they cannot live without group therapy. Here is how the liberal media has turned everything upside down and lies on a daily basis. The U.S. economy is roaring along. Unemployment among all groups is at an all-time low. Wages are up, manufacturing is up, poverty is down, the U.S. military under President Trump has defeated ISIS, Syrian refugees are returning to their homeland, North Korea has stopped firing off missiles, and somehow Trump is failing and America is in chaos. I tell you, the mainstream media in America is so out of control. Last week, the New York Times reported that they have conclusive evidence that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a reincarnation of Joseph Stalin after a sex change. This is how big the liberal media lies for the Democrats. They're claiming that Hillary's campaign actually getting dirt on candidate Trump from foreigners in 2016, which you will know as the Steele dossier. They're saying it's nothing to see here, move on, Hillary did nothing wrong. But they want Trump impeached just for answering a hypothetical question from George Stephanopoulos and saying that he might look at opposition research if offered by a foreign country. Big difference, they said. You can't compare the two. Trump is much worse. They said it's like comparing a coconut to Adam Schiff's head. One is empty and one is not. This is how absurd these people are. They're saying that Hillary was offered dirt, she sought the dirt, and she paid for the dirt, and that's fine. Trump, they argue, said he may take a look at the dirt if offered, and so he must be impeached. So going by that logic, a husband who gets caught with a prostitute, for example, can and probably should use the Hillary Russian dossier defense, which is, it wasn't offered to me, I went out looking for it and I paid for it. Case closed. Speaking about paying for it, the Mueller report, which cost in excess of $25 million, was finally released, and it didn't deliver the impeachment momentum the Democrats and the liberal media had hoped for, because, as Trump said all along, there was no Trump-Russia collusion. But the Democrats and the liberal media just won't give up. Every minute of the day, they're stirring up something to try to get the public to support impeachment. You have Nadler, Schiff, Cummings subpoenaing people and documents left, right, and center, hoping that some new bombshell will explode and catch fire. And I have to give them credit. It's a pretty clever and sophisticated strategy when you think of it. It's called throw shit at the wall and hope that something sticks. You might have noticed that the Democrats have now shifted. It's no longer collusion. It's now obstruction. That's the new mantra, obstruction of justice. And MSNBC is reporting that Adam Schiff, the chairman of the powerful House Intelligence Committee, told colleagues that if he doesn't succeed in impeaching Trump for obstruction, he will resign and accept castration. So the narrative they're pushing now is that Trump obstructed justice in the Mueller investigation. They're saying that he deleted 33,000 emails after they were subpoenaed by the FBI, and that he also destroyed phones and Blackberries by beating them up with a hammer. Oh, sorry, that was Hillary. My bad. But can you imagine if Trump had done what Hillary did, if he had ordered his people to destroy evidence after they were subpoenaed? Can you imagine the frenzy these people would have whipped up? I mean, Ana Navarro would be on CNN screaming until her face explodes. And we don't want that to happen, or do we? A few weeks ago, one of the big stories was Joe Biden's multiple flip-flop on abortion and the Hyde Amendment. Now, the Hyde Amendment, as you probably know, was named after Congressman Henry Hyde, and it prohibits federal funds from being spent on abortion. And Biden, of course, supported the Hyde Amendment during his entire Senate career. But recently, when he was confronted by a supporter at an event, he changed his position on the issue, and since then, he's changed his position back and forth so many times that John Kerry is now accusing him of flip-flopping too much. So here is how many times Biden flip-flopped. He first supported the Hyde Amendment as a senator. He then reversed himself to not supporting it. Then, less than 24 hours later, he reverted back to supporting it through one of his spokesmen who said on CNN, quote, "He is a deeply religious man. He is guided by his faith. His position on the Hyde Amendment has been consistent." But then, 24 hours later, Biden appeared at a DNC event in Atlanta, Georgia, and reversed himself yet again, saying that he opposes the Hyde Amendment. That's 3 180s in 2 days. And his campaign now says that to prevent him from flip-flopping so much in future, they will put Biden back in chains. The Hyde Amendment, though, is not the only thing Biden has flip-flopped on recently. He's also flip-flopped on China. In May, he said that China was not a serious threat to America. He basically scoffed at the notion that China was, quote, eating our lunch. Last month, however, he flipped and admitted that China is a serious threat to America. And when asked how he will deal with China as president, he said that people around the world, including China, will respect America more when he is president because he has a bigger stick than Obama. I'm sure you remember this video.
Now is the time to heed the timeless advice from Teddy Roosevelt. Speak softly and carry a big stick. End of quote. I promise you, the president has a big stick. I promise you.
A few weeks ago, Democrat Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said that the U.S. is running concentration camps on its southern border. Now, before we even think of taking Ocasio-Cortez seriously on anything, we need to remember that this is the woman who said that the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. 12 years, and we're all going to die. I guess from starvation, from pollution, from too much socialist bullshit. Now, nobody quite knows where Ocasio-Cortez got the 12-year time frame from. But last week, BuzzFeed reported that she came up with the 12-year time frame after consulting with top climate change experts in Europe and the United States. I'm kidding, of course. She pulled the 12-year crap out of her behind. By now, you most likely have heard about Tom Steyer. He's a liberal billionaire who made most of his money in the hedge fund business, and in recent years he's turned to politics. His biggest cause right now is to try to have President Trump impeached. He's spending millions and millions of dollars of his own money and has founded a group called Need to Impeach, which sounds like a perfect name for a clown show starring Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler. According to The Atlantic, Steyer has pumped about $80 million of his own money into the impeachment drive. And he says he's willing to spend even more if necessary, which makes me wonder, does this guy realize that impeaching a president doesn't result in the removal of a president, and that there aren't 67 votes in the Senate to remove Trump from office? So somebody needs to tell Steyer that even if Trump is impeached, nothing will change. Donald Trump will still be president, and Tom Steyer will still need to see a psychiatrist. Now, I'm not kidding when I said that Steyer needs to see a psychiatrist. He has some very kooky ideas. He owns a ranch with cattle out in California, and he said that the reason why he has the ranch is to conduct a giant scientific experiment to see if cattle running around a ranch can somehow push and bury carbon dioxide into the soil, which would reduce carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and help with climate change. Now, I'm not kidding. Here it is right from the horse's mouth.
So we do own a cattle ranch, and the point of that cattle ranch is a gigantic science experiment. Because the question we have is there a way to raise cattle to actually sequester carbon in the soil? And that's something that we've had asked scientists to actually study for us so that we can find out if doing it in the old-fashioned way when there were herds of ungulants walking across the North American plains, the plains of Africa, that in fact, can we put a bunch more carbon into the soil for about 45 years, which in fact would reverse some of the climate change while the rest of the world is catching up and making changes. And I'm not sure where that's coming out. Obviously, we are doing scientific studies and we have some preliminary reads.
You have to wonder if these climate change fanatics are losing their minds. On the other extreme, you have Ocasio-Cortez saying the opposite about cattle. She says that we have to eliminate cows because when the cows fart, they emit methane, which does serious damage to the environment and contributes to climate change. So Steyer says cows may save the environment. Ocasio-Cortez says cows will ruin the environment. And Al Gore says, holy cow, this climate change bullshit is falling apart. That's our show for today. Please share our video and subscribe to our channel and watch out for our next episode in a few days. Until then, stay well and take care of yourself.